By now, everybody's familiar with Auto-Tune, a software processor that, along with its many clones, takes a vocal performance that has pitch problems and automatically, in real time, corrects all the off-pitch notes, making for a perfect take, at least pitch-wise. People are also all probably familiar with the special effect it's used to produce. But here I'm just thinking of its original intended purpose, to transparently fix the pitch on vocal recordings. Its use has become so ubiquitous that many engineers just throw it on a track by default, sometimes without even auditioning the results. Well, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. I would say that, even though it can work wonders when needed, it's a mistake to just apply Auto-Tune by default to a vocal recording. Some recordists tend to make two assumptions about Auto-Tune. And I mean not just the original plugin, but all the pitch processors that do that kind of automatic real-time pitch correction. They assume that the vocal will need it, and they assume that it'll do its job transparently. Of course, more experienced engineers and producers, especially ones who are also musicians or singers themselves, know that both those assumptions are not necessarily true. Now, it is true that many singers would benefit from a little help in the pitch department for a variety of reasons. Some are just inexperienced singers. Some are really songwriters forced by circumstance and finances to do their own vocals. Sometimes a singer may not be properly warmed up and yet still deliver a take that's musically great, but technically flawed. Some singers are unaccustomed to the logistics of studio recording, and the overdubbing and headphone monitoring may throw off their normally good sense of pitch. All of these could be legitimate reasons to apply a little auto-tuning, but I'd still suggest that you try to have them redo a part first and get it right naturally before turning to the technological solution. They may fix more than just the pitchiness. Their performance might improve in other areas as well, as they get more warmed up or accustomed to the surroundings. On the other hand, sometimes a certain vocal part, or line or phrase, may just be beyond a certain singer's abilities, and making him do multiple takes in a vain effort to get it perfect will not only blow out his voice, but suck all the energy out of the session. A good producer should be able to draw that line and know when a performance fix shouldn't be pursued and it is time to turn to technology to get the job done. And when the decision is made to auto-tune the part, there's no reason to let the software run throughout the entire recording. Sometimes that might be called for, but more often than not, even a singer with pitch problems will sing well for long stretches with only certain notes or phrases needing a little help. Now, auto-tuning software, with the right settings, especially the speed setting, can be quite transparent. But it still may clean up aspects of a vocal that didn't really need to be fixed. Sometimes little pitch drifts or shakes, while technically imperfections, are actually part of the singer's style and probably should be left alone. But if an engineer just throws auto-tune on the entire track, he has no way of knowing if he's overdoing it and processing some of the vibe and feel out of the performance, along with the few bum notes that really needed a fix. He'd need to audition the track carefully to determine if most of it maybe sounds better without the processing, but his whole reason to just insert the plugin and go was to save time. I'd suggest that the better strategy is to quickly go through the vocal recording, determining where the most obvious pitch issues are, auto-tune just those sections, and then see how the track sounds overall. Besides following the recording engineer's Hippocratic oath, don't fix it if it ain't broke, hearing the unprocessed sections interspersed with the processed bits will make it obvious if the processing is going too far and affecting the musicality of the performance unintentionally. To do this selective auto-tuning, I'd usually make a duplicate track with the auto-tune plugin on it and quickly cut and move the areas that need it to that processed track. This lets me easily, visually, keep track of where I'm applying the processing, so if I hear something I'm not sure about in later playback, I can immediately see if it needs processing applied or reduced. Of course, if the problem is not occasional flubbed notes, but a more consistently sharp or flat delivery, then in that case, it would be appropriate to have auto-tune running through the entire take. But then I'd also suggest that the engineer take a little time to check the original against the processed version, and really make sure that all that's happening is pitch correction, and there's no concurrent loss of musical feel. The excellent transparency that auto-tune plugins can be capable of should not just be assumed, taken for granted. It's up to the user to verify it, and if necessary, optimize the settings to ensure that transparency. One last thing. Always keep in mind that auto-tuning a vocal might be taken as a slap in the face by some performers. While a lot of singers, especially inexperienced ones, welcome it, some vocalists take it as a matter of pride that their takes shouldn't need to be processed or fixed, and you want to take that into consideration. Here's a little story to illustrate. I remember a session, and this was quite a while ago, with an excellent old-school studio vocalist. She was really top-notch. She nailed just about every take, came up with her own harmonies, and gamely accommodated the producer's suggestions. Toward the end of the session, she did another great take, but slightly flubbed one or two notes, obviously without realizing it. Now, we had been working with this producer and another very inexperienced singer for some time, regularly auto-tuning that singer, whose very rough vocal takes needed it so badly he'd repeatedly remind us to use it on him. So, as the studio ace was coming back into the control room, the producer, who had obviously gotten used to that methodology, innocently asked if I was going to fix her part with auto-tune. Well, the singer heard this and took it as a personal insult and just went off on the producer for about 10 minutes about the art and craft of singing, after which she stormed back into the booth and, of course, nailed the redo in one take. Nowadays, auto-tune is much more generally accepted, but even so, like I said, many singers still may take affront at having used on them, so you always want to be tactful about applying it when the singer is there. If you use it correctly, they shouldn't even realize it, and if they can hear it without being prompted, well, then you're not applying it as carefully as you should be. So, even though auto-tune has become a standard studio tool, it's still a tool that, when it is used for transparent pitch correction, should be applied sparingly and tactfully. And that gets me to the last topic, studio politics.